so I apologize. However, we all have our cup of coffee, or tea, and I thank you for joining me on a happy Friday on a hectic Friday morning to our Maintaining Healthy Indoor Air Quality, a comprehensive guide to air purifier and indoor air quality. Welcome to this series. As you can see here, is that we have a lot of different equipment to let you have a look at what is available today. So this is a little bit about me. I come from a building restoration background. I have been in the industry for 26 years now. I'm an indoor air quality, building management, building science specialist. I look at building contaminants and from the building restoration side of things. I volunteer for the Australian standard, the ME 94, which is an adaptation of the IAQA 500 and 520. If you're not aware of what that is actually the people that come and remediate your building from either fire, flood, or from mold aspects of that. Now, we will have an Australian standard within by next year that looks at not only just the water damage side of things, but also microbial contaminants in building and the remediation of that, which is very exciting. I also sit on the IRCSC, which is the Institute of Cleaning, Restoration for the specialist restoration industry. I sit in the S700 standard, which is the wildfire, and this is one of the reasons why BULCS Holdings was formed. BULCS used in the past was a rental consultant business. In 2019, with the fire that came in and had such devastating effect in our life in Australia, we had so many livestock that was that had died, and so many people that had lung issues that also have passed away. And then, of course, we backed that up by COVID. So I was sick of looking at reactive industry, which a lot of the work that most of what we do is reactive. You've got an issue, we'll come and fix it. So I wanted to look at, there must be better ways of looking at how we manage our buildings and look at proactive way of doing that. And that is where BULCS did a 360 and we changed into a sales company that look at helping people to have a better indoor air quality. And you can see that I'm quite passionate about that. Right? So I also sit on the S230, which is the substrate inspection committee. That standard will be finished within the year. The health and safety, which is for the restoration and the cleaners. The cleaners completed, the restoration is still going. And the building management inspection committee, that is actually today is the beta test of that particular standard that have just come out. I also sit on the ASTM Air and Wood, and I'm an active member of the Australian Timber Flooring Association. I'm a committee part of that, and of course I'm a board of director of indoor air quality. Of course, and I co-founded the Healthy Indoor Air magazine. You'll find a lot of stuff that's useful there, and we can and then of course BULCS Holdings and my consulting arm, which look at wood for drying, is one of my really passions. So this is a 4-part series. I'll look at the series of design to explore the fundamentals of indoor air quality. We'll look at how indoor air quality is going to impact the way that we, in the indoor environment, on the place that we work, the place that we live, and also the place that we play. Because as we know, the conditions the climate conditions have really made it impossible, as much as it was in the past, for us to actually play outdoors we have now a lot of indoor sports. So that is one of the reasons. So this 4-part series will help you to look at that and help you to progress into a way that we can understand. In this particular series, we're looking at air purifier 101. These are the air purifiers that there are. We'll look at how other cleaning technologies are available, what they're about, and the knowledge, and look at how to have a better and healthier indoor air. So in 1986, we know about the 6 building syndrome because we had, or who coined the 6 building syndrome, with the buildings being built differently. What happened was that there was a lot of people that were experiencing health effects from that, skin irritation, headache, fatigue. We still have a lot of that from a lot of people, and some of you might be one of them. You might be able to see if there's anyone to admit in.
So far, everyone's in.
Yeah. So dilution is a solution to pollution. Now, this was coined by Dr. A. Roger. She wrote a book after looking, she's an environmental specialist in medicine for building contaminants. And what she's looking after the 6 building syndrome was really identified as a condition. And she went and did 1,000 or more studies in regards to occupants in these buildings and why and how the health effect is. In 1987, she wrote a paper called Diagnosing the Type Building Syndrome, and that has all those information that there is. And she says the solution to pollution is dilution. It is very logical that if chemical is bothering you, you should put it out and dilute the level of contaminants that is there. And that's why you hear the coin. So air tightness is mainly, we're still learning a lot more about that. We have Passive House in Australia, where Passive House, it's a growing ideology of really looking at, and all these other sustainable, like Wells, Neighbours, our own local a sustainable platform, has an IAQ a webpage that you can look at how to really look at the health and well-being in an occupied space, doing transitional, sustainable deliveries to your buildings that can actually make it more comfort. With that is that we're still learning how to really ventilate our buildings. There's still a lot of people that still don't know. We're coming up with the second generations that really weren't really taught with that. We ourselves in the baby boomers are still trying to understand a lot more, because in the past we just go out, open up the doors, we didn't have to worry. You see your parents opening up the back door and the front door, and air just goes through that. And then if it's not good, you shut one of the back doors, leave the front doors open, or open a couple of windows. It was simple management of air quality. It was always there. We always managed it. It was very, very simple back in the old days. However, as you can see back in 1986, when there was a lot more people and buildings were being built higher, tighter, the changes came through. We're feeling that impact also in Australia, and the same thing is our population levels in the city area is more dense. We are living more in high rises, and those can cause inadequate ventilations, and all built incorrectly due to a whole big problems that we have just in the building industry at the moment too. So we as occupants have to really learn a lot more about where we live. It is fundamentally, as we know, prior to COVID, we were doing about 70% indoors. We're living indoors quite a lot. After COVID or during COVID, we're there for about 90 something percent. We've learned a different way of working. and we're working from home a lot more than what we used to also. That again means that we're staying indoors a lot more than we wish. And we have to really look at, understanding what that impacts is. And hopefully this series can actually let you understand that. So inadequate management means condensation. All these unhealthy things that you see would be a problem. Your installations, the furniture that you bring back, and such. So tight building versus loose buildings. Yeah. Well, this is the stock that we see mostly, because you have to understand, new stocks is still about 20% in Australia. We don't have a lot of new stock. New stock doesn't. With the old stock still is there, and as we're moving with new stock, the mid stock will still become old stock. Okay. So basically, old stock means that buildings that's been here for more than 20-something years has, or either due to maintenance and or the older buildings, like my house was built in 1940, so it's a very loose building. Luckily it's a good building, but sometimes we'll have infiltration. We smell a lot more, and in my home, I have 2 of these air purifiers because of the loose building. I absorb all that pollens from my neighbors. My garden, I have tried to remove as much allergens as I know that impacts me and my dog. She and I are the only 2 affected people in my house. And the air purifier helps to run through it, because when the hay fever comes, it comes out here, and my head is just blocked up. I can't see you, and I can't even think. That's how bad it is. So these air purifiers help to manage my home when I'm at home, when I'm in indoor, and it manages in the office. In the office, we have air purifiers here. In the ducted fan, we have air purifiers downstairs. We have a remote sensor. These are the IAQ indoor air quality sensors. Brim's going to try and set one up later for us to have a look. Or if not, in part 4, we will be talking about that too. So basically is that these are the things that you look at. I suffer a lot, and that's one of the reasons I've suffered from hay fever many years. And that's one of the reasons why I understand that indoor air quality can really affect your health. So tight and loose buildings, we just have to really look at, what that is. Stack effect, we won't really talk about too much of that, because that would be another 4-part series. But we need to know a little bit about stack effect, especially when you're going to look at management of your indoor air quality. Anything that comes in, a building can be very tight, however, it'll still be impacting when you open up doors, open up the windows. I put a ventilation fan underneath the cavity of my subfloor on top of my house. All of that can affect the building. In the IAQ magazine, you'll see an article from a Denmark professor from the University of Denmark, Copenhagen. And he did a study back in about 8 years ago, because there was a fire and the firemen couldn't get into one of the fire doors because of the stack effect sucked up the emergency door, and they could not open it. So the study was to study how actually they did. One thing was to change the door from opening this way to opening another way. I can't remember exactly what it is, but to open from another way. And that they found by doing that, they could release. So all from that on, their whole building code changed, and they immediately understand a lot more about stack effect. In US, you'll still see the same. Revolving doors was another one that 5 people have found out that the stack effect is causing, and a revolving door will help to release some of that sentence. And that's why you see stack effect is very important. So, but understanding it is important because pollutant travels around it. And then the contaminants of indoor air, we will talk a little bit more about that on the series two, I think, session 2. Hey. So, but you will see that your outdoor air impacts your carbon from your car vehicles. If you live, unfortunately, next to, any of the, in a factory area, and that would impact your plants indoors to just your dust, your pets, and the most important thing of all is the cleanliness of the property. That will, again, impact. We are very, very dirty people. We shred like there's no, I'm not talking about your hygiene. I'm just saying that, we, like dogs, we shred like the dogs. So you'll be amazing how much stuff we release out. So those are things, that's why healthy room really starts with cleaning. Then your cleaning chemicals is another one, right? Now, we all do this. I do this. I can't put I live in Melbourne. In the winter, we've got a clothesline. Summer, the laundry goes sit outside. In winter, we can't do that in winter because, if I put my laundry outside, this shirt will come out and it will be frozen. I'll be walking around like this. So we all put our clothes on in the house. And unfortunately, one load of laundry can evaporate 5 liters of water. Can you imagine over time, not including the way that we live? We expel 3 liters. There's a study that just came through. It's 2.6 liters or something. So we'll say 3 liters of water a day. So in my bedroom, I've got me, my partner, and the dog. So it gets very wet and condensate. So I have a dehumidifier running there. But again, I would not talk about condensation. It is more the impact of the health and well-being that I'm talking about, because condensation will be another 4-part series. So, so we won't get there. We might have a chat about looking at that in a later date. So a Scottish chemist called John Stanhouse in 1954 developed a filter, the first type of face mask made of carbon powder. It was due to the fact of the smoke smog in Europe and also the war because as human, we create these really great and devastating and really unhealthy stuff. We love doing that. And so it caused a lot of respiratory issues for the fighters. So what he did was that he developed the first face mask. The face mask was built with pleats and just cloth and powdered carbon. And then he began experimenting, and he developed another one called the wire gash. And then he found out that you can use carbon pellets to create the carbon filters that we have nowadays. It is still widely used in these air purifiers, and they are made with, instead of using powder, he has used pellets to work. And these are based on the spaceship suits system, so they're very technological. It's amazing. It's been about 100 years since development, and it has worked all the time. So in 1899, the first air purifier was developed. The air purifier was for to get away the odors from refrigerators. They kind of look like something like this, a standalone unit, and it actually is the basis to what we have today, the air purifiers that we have today, minus the cold refrigerants that's there. But it does the same thing as to remove odor. In 1963, two brothers, Banfield and Klass, developed the first air purifier using all these informations that was developed 100 years ago, and made the first indoor air purifier, which they started a business called IAQ. I think that was the next founding of it. So this was really interesting. It's air purifier has been used 63 years. It's 61 years. So it is a technology is just ever evolving to be better, but it's really a technology that has been developed 100 or something years ago, and we don't really get to know that. We don't know stuff like that. Right? So the filter development in 1872, we had the Allen and Alvin Rice. They advanced this technology that we go back to the before the Klass boys. We go back to John. Go back to the refrigerants. The development of filters prior to the Klass boys developing their own air purifier is that these filters still need to be built, right? We didn't have pleated filters at that time. So what they did was they did a two-pack advanced by two-stage filtration system. And in 1974, one of the most advanced air purifiers of that time was developed, which led to 1940s when the Manhattan Project came in. They created a lot of radiation, and these radiation particles just went everywhere, and people were getting really sick. So the scientists developed the first HEPA, high-efficient particulate arrest filtration systems, and these are the basis towards again, to any of the component, either air scrubber or air filtration systems. So these are the HEPA air purifiers filters that you can see with a MERV 8 filter. In this unit, this is a 2.5-inch, 3-inch filter. In that particular unit, it has a 40 ml filter of HEPA. So this is a 600 CFM air scrubber, which you'll know a little bit more about. 600 CFM with an impact level of 40 mil, which means it's actual. It can absorb all that, because filter work really well when it's impacted with more and more stuff, and it can still flow the air. And it's one of those good designs that I like. It's got four ways of air disbursement. It runs there, so it can really stir up that contaminants and get it captured instead. So the air filtration system has so it has basically has how is the filters made of? The filters made of random fibers. So the fibers are literally just all in different ways. They're made of a sticky materials, kind of like the filters that you see in your range hood. This is what we call a G3 filter. It has no backing to it, but it still has the ability. You take it out, it's just a lot of grains just put out together. So the idea is that the more the fibers, the better the quality and the higher the MERV rating it is. So it goes with diffusion. Diffusion is any small little particles that goes in, gets bounced around, and it gets pooped. Then we go with impaction. Impactions are bigger is the bigger size. Anything that's about 10 microns that comes in, impacts, and gets stuck onto the filter itself. And the other way that it does absorb the particles is that in interception. And interceptions are smaller, mid-sized particles that actually comes in, and they get caught between the filaments in itself, and either gets pushed through and recirculates. And that's why we have air exchange, is to continue to capture these pollutants, the particulates in the air, and try and capture it through the filters as it goes. And it will be captured through different filaments that's there, either through one of those three ways, either through diffusion, impaction, or through interception. So the ASHRAE is one of the American Society for Refrigerants. It actually has a lot of different, it's built a lot of, it has 56,000 members in it. And within the members, there's a lot of knowledge and expertise. And these knowledge and expertise are people that sits in different committees. In this committee is the 52.2. They look at how to really identify these filters and what do they actually really do in contaminant capture. You know, all these three are very different, have very different capture capabilities. So this is when they developed the MERV rating. The MERV rating, as we know, is the minimum efficient reporting values. They report values between 0.3 microns to 10 microns. You can look, the HEPA is starting from HEPA 13 is 75% capture capability, MERV 14 to MERV 20, which is 99.999999.7. You have 0.3 microns. And that's why some of the air purifiers will have either ultraviolet lights that will actually go and dissipate the residual 0.3 microns that may be some other, we'll look at what they may be. Hey. Okay, so we talked about this already. Diffusion occurs when there's a gas molecule that's smaller than 1 microns collide with each other during the passing and gets captured in the filaments. Interception is moving along and gets stuck on, and the third is the mechanism of a lot of particles that gets themselves attached. So we know one of we've seen this during COVID, the size of particles, because we have always been talking about Zika virus, you know, and coronavirus, which is up here, 3 above high. But what I want to see is the wildfire smoke and the dust these two, and the respiratory droplets. They're 5 microns and under 2.7 microns. So these wildfire smoke, you'll need a filter or some sort of system that will be at least a MERV 16 and above to actually mitigate that particulates. If not, you'll still see some residual. Or anywhere like dust particles, you'll find that your normal HEPA 13 and such might be able to do the tricks. So it's really good to understand the size and the size of the particles. Again, this is a simple explanation. MERV 6 to 8 is what you see in most commercial air conditioning systems. However, you might have heard during the COVID again, you know, everybody is trying to say, you know, let's try and get these, you know, MERV 13s to 14s into the commercial space. It's not that simple. The fan system that actually pushes the air through that building is set for a certain way that it won't choke the building. So putting a bigger filter system cost a lot of people a lot of money to actually get there. Hey? So we need to know how. For us, we're looking more on this part of the things where there's dust, mold, dander, smoke, and of course allergies. And that's why you'll have anything like these ones, MERV 14 filters, and they are just right on the cusp of where the HEPA is defined as 95% contaminant, so capture. Air cleaner, yeah. EPA have, this is the 2024 document that has come out with the air cleaner. It's got some advice in it that's pretty good that you can look at. Okay. The conclusion is that the indoor air pollution is among the top 5 environmental health risks. How do you address it? Is to eliminate source by ventilating. The ventilation method, however, could be open air ventilation. Now, we talked again about this a lot. You'll see people, Lydia Morawski has talked a lot about that, and I think it's really fantastic. So has a lot of the scientists. However, in the past, we did that. Again, like I was saying, you know, your parents were doing that. You know, you probably might be doing that. You still might be doing that in some of the areas that you live in. However, again, the environment has changed where that is no longer possible. Like for me, like me at home, we open our windows as much as we can. In hay fever season, boom, it's shut. I'm not opening that window unless it's really, really sunny and no wind, no wind. And there's always people that ask me, hey, so I lived in this building for 10, 15, 20 years. Nothing has changed. My habit hasn't changed. My way of doing the amount of people that lives in the house hasn't changed, but I just don't understand what has happened. You know, why everything has changed. So we forget that we concentrate about indoor space, but we forget about the environmental space that comes in. Your environmental space can complicate your indoor situation easily, either by moisture. You know, if you're in an apartment, you just have to have someone upstairs have a leak happening that they don't know that will impact you in your living space. The other thing is that you may be in a really dry and open areas. You can open up your windows for the last 15, 20 years that you're living in your building. However, now shoots up another building that's in front of you, and for the last 5 or 6 years they've been there. You haven't realized that they've actually caused a lot of, apart from an eyesore, how it's impacted you in regards to the way that you live in your building. So you still put your laundry on the dry in the house. However, the sun that you had before was no longer there due to the fact the building has blocked most of that out, and or the pollutions during stack effect, all that the exhausts that they have from their car park is right on your side of the building. It's coming up all the way via just, you know, the stack, and then coming into your property, causing other issues that you have. So so sometimes open up air may not work, and that's why they said, you know, you might need cleaning devices also. And this is what we're looking at, is the impact level to the respiratory, and that impact will cause you a lot of issues. A lot of people, like I said, they had this, the penetrate, which is the smoke and wildfire. In 2019, we had recorded 400 something deaths due to respiratory issues, but that stopped because COVID came in, and those deaths become COVID deaths. We would have really be good to really had some studies that could really see the effect of such a devastating impact that we have and see that result. However, that study might be a bit tarnished because of those two catastrophic events that happened back to back. Okay. So open air ventilations, you know, really good. Dilution is a solution to pollution. It's like a song, right? So it's really good. It really releases, you know, gets those carbon dioxide, you know. A lot of us talk in a conference center, you'll notice if the air ventilation is not good in a classroom, you know, you see your kids half asleep all the time sitting there because the windows don't get open because it's too loud. So the air quality in those rooms are so bad because there's also a lot of people in that room, right? So carbon dioxide depletes and you get sleepy, lethargic. Opening up the window will release that and bring in some good air. So of course it's going to be the first solution. However, if we can't, then we have to look at air cleaning products, say. So what is an air purifier? So an air purifier is also called an air cleaner. Some of them are called air cleaners, air scrubbers, air purifiers, you know. And what's the difference between them? They both might have a 99.9997 efficiency. Some will have 99.995. A lot of the cheaper models of air purifiers you find only have HEPA 13, but you have to see if it's a true HEPA. True HEPA means that it has to have enough pleats and capacity for it to require that. And some of them, if you get like these ones that we have from UK, they have standards that has a word that's passed through the UK standard, and they follow a particular ASHRAE 52.2 guideline. So it consists of course, a fan. You know, you have to blow. You have to suck up the pollutants and blow out air to circulate and move those. Because if I stand here, it's going to be stagnant. However, if I stand here and start to, you know, bang on the carpets, those pollutants inside my carpet will start to come up. It's like a vacuum cleaners. That's why the old little vacuum cleaners that had those little bristles that keeps them banging onto it are really good because they pick up all those pollutants that's inside the carpet. Right? So that's what it is. These devices remove contaminants and create better indoor air quality. And I vouch for it because I have to have them at home. So then there are other cleaners that have, you know, they're most common they're mainly more common 5 different types of filtrations that you have. You've got the pre-filter, ionization systems, you've got some carbon technology, ozone generator, and UV technology. We will briefly talk about some, and some of them we won't talk about it because they just shouldn't be there at all because they are not healthy. Okay? So purifying techniques, there are 2 purifying techniques, active and passive. So the active releases negative charge ions into the air, causing pollutants to stick together, amalgamate, them. While the passive air is these filtration systems, which will remove, disintegrate, and dissect them, and collect them in the filter. So air scrubbers are a little bit different. Air scrubbers is a simple term for air scrubber is a portable unit. These are the portable units. You can move them around. All they have is just a fan-based system. They have a HEPA. They have a MERV 8. In our system, we also have a G3 filters, and which means that you can allow your filtration system to be cleaner as much as you can. Once you're there, you pick up the machine. These are mainly used for more commercial site. They're more robust. They're bigger. They're chunkier. The airflows are much higher. So you'll get anywhere between, you know, actual airflow of 600, 500 to 2,000 CFM to these ones that are anywhere between 3 to 400 CFM. This particular one is 200 CFM, and we have a bigger one that is 500 CFM high. And the CFM is required to, again, move enough air to move enough air, which will talk a little bit about air exchange. And these air will move, circulate the room, and start absorbing and creating better air quality within the area. So air scrubber or negative air machine. There is a good article which is, I've lost the link to it. So you can grab this, you can grab the PowerPoint if you email me on the link that you, I think there's a link that there is, or not, hello@bulcsholding.com.au. BULCS Holding, BULCS Holdings with HOLDINGS.com.au. So the term of air scrubbers are generally used in a remedial sense as a negative air machine. There's two ways of using them. You can use it as a neutral air, you put it in there, it starts circulating. The other way is that we can use it by extracting creating a negative space by making sure that the containments in the area that we're cleaning is isolated, so there is no contaminants that can either move in or out from these premises. And then, of course, there's positive air filtration, which is very lightly used, say. But we're here going to talk about what the term of negative and air scrubber is, say. So air scrubber stand alone in a room without anything, no ductwork and stuff. A regular negative machine is that it has a containment. Like I said, it has containment. You duct it out so that you can create that negative Pascal. We generally use about negative 5 Pascal. You will see these in a mold remediation project or a project, even water damage project, if there is occupants on the other space that's living around that site. So air scrubber versus air cleaner. So these two bad boys, bad girls, what is the difference between them? Yeah, the main difference is that one removes airborne microbial contaminants, and the other remove airborne particles. So one does more than the others. These are very good for particulates removal. You know, the air purifiers, you'll find that it can remove bacteria, viruses, depends on what sort, and also mold, pollens and stuff like that, pollen and dander. So we'll now go into the emerging technologies, and one of the ones that you'll hear more and more of is the UVGI light. It's been used, ultraviolet lights have been used in air conditioning systems for many years. Henceforth, there is the 62.1 ASHRAE document. We can look at how it is working inside a contaminant space. We're now taking that technology and changing it to UVG light, where it can come out and start removing pathogens and bacteria. During COVID, it was quite widely used. So the ultraviolet germicidal irradiation, is the use of ultraviolet energies to kill viral bacteria and fungal organism. So it is up here. So this presentation didn't really show that UVG light here. And it disinfects the solvents. It will kill airborne pathogens in the room. And it's a little bit better than just using ultraviolet lights, because we'll talk about ultraviolet lights in a second. Ionizations and air purifiers. So a lot of people, there's also different ionization systems that are being used. I do not like negative ions by itself. I do not mind a bipolar type of ionization, and also depends on how it's being used, because it will create byproducts. There is not enough. There's not enough research to actually talk about the good of an ionization system in anything, and henceforth, you didn't see a lot of this being talked of during COVID in Australia. In US, there was a lot more of that conversation going on. However, the studies are still so vague that that is not good. So whatever technology you want to use, you have to make sure that they just comply, that they're not ozone, because the ionization system uses energy. The more energy it produces, the better they will be able to discharge these either negative or positive ions that will have these particulates either get stuck to it, can either agglomerate and then it will disintegrate, or whichever it does, and then it will get eliminated. Right? But because of the discharge of these type of energies, that's where the problems and the byproducts can come in, mixing with unknown gases that we have in a building environment. And so note, you need to have low frequency ions and not negative ions if you're looking at this type of technology. There is no Australian standard for it, apart from Japan has a ionization standard, but it's not being really adopted. So how does UV light work, right? We know a lot about UV lights. It comes through, and it gets zapped up. So what is a UV light? UV lights are these little guys. Right? So they will tell you the amount of wavelengths that is there, and I need my other glasses to be able to see this. So but I think this one is 260, 255. This is UVC lights. So the wavelength of these units will then be able to eliminate particulates like bacteria and stuff. However, these types of wavelength, which we'll talk about in a sec, short wavelengths are good, but anything that's in between this can be dangerous for us. And that's why you see them inside air conditioning systems before the filtration, so that it can eliminate as much contaminants, or inside the filtration, or inside the ductwork, and to eliminate. But the idea is that the wavelength will come in and kill your mold particulates and particles, so that, and these are the things that you have to look at. It has to be effective. If it's not effective, then you just have a light bulb. And the other thing that you have to understand with ultraviolets is that because the light, you have a lot of CFM coming out from you're being sucked in a lot of CFM. So all these particles are being sucked in, travels pretty much at that speed. And when it travels at that speed, your filters, if your filters get used a lot more, it will start to have it will be blocked a lot more, actually stopping the particulates and making the UV light more effective, because it will slow down the particles that are going in, whereby the UV light will have the opportunity to eliminate it. But when it's going very fast, like in a ductwork, you'll find that it will have multiple systems to be able to eliminate. I'm going to start moving faster as the time is moving away. Air exchange, very, very important. It's actually 62.1 ventilation inside. Talks about how many times I can take the air from this building, take it through my system and change it. The standard is that you can have about 3.5 air exchange. If you just kind of look at it in cold rooms, you will have about in cold rooms you have sorry, not cold rooms, in clean rooms like operating theaters, they have anywhere between 12 and above air exchange. In some of the classroom we were talking during COVID was anywhere between 4 to 6 air exchange. So something like that would be quite sufficient. I'm also going to do one thing is to let you have a look inside an air purifier, because I think I missed that point just now. So inside an air purifier, you'll see the HEPA system that is there. You have to make sure that the HEPA is well fitted, and that's why you see a lot of them have these thicker felts to actually hold the carbon inside. This is a very thick carbon and HEPA. You see the carbon that we talked about. So it has carbon on one side between a HEPA filter, which is then you can hear it. The system will tell you when to change the filters. It has PM counter on it. And when it sucks in, we've got an ultraviolet light that will actually radiate from here, giving it opportunities through this thick area. As the particles goes through it, it slows down the rate of that particles to go through, and the carbon also slows down the particles, which gives it an opportunity for the UV light to work. And we talked about UVG light. In this one here, you would find that it actually has a UVG plate in this unit, and the plate is very small. Again, the air gets captured, zapped, and the last thing before it goes into the filtration system is that it will have the ability of the other way around, sorry. When it goes through the filtration system, you know, we have the opportunity of going through the HEPA, and then the UVG light on the inside of the unit will then deplete the particles. So understanding air filtration devices that are available in the market, just have to look at one thing is that the cheaper units may have some issues. Some of the bigger units may not be the correct one, because the government in Melbourne especially bought a whole bunch of units that are not practical for schools, and they are now laid dormant, because you have to look at sometimes in your environment if some air filtration devices would be the correct way, or energy recovery system. I didn't really talk about energy recovery system. Again, I would like to talk about that in another series that we were coming up with, because I think that is going to be a very good way to look at real indoor environmental management. So, yeah. So the last of it, I would like to talk about the advanced building systems against airborne infection transmission. We have a link. It's a government-funded project led by Lydia Morosky for the Center of, the center is designed with the government funding to look at ventilations and indoor air quality. A lot of stuff that I'm talking about is some of the stuff that the airborne infectious that Thrive is doing. Luckily, BULCS is partaking in one section of that project. We like to partake as much as we can in the future. It's a 5-year study, and hopefully with the end of it, the outcome is that there will be more information about technologies, how to actually look at it, and what to really to understand more about it. So jump onto the Thrive website and understand a little bit more. So this is me. Brim, was there any questions that anybody had? Chat box, no?
Not that I saw. I didn't see any.
Does anybody have any questions that they'd like to ask? You can jump in the chat box. And if not, then feel free to get in contact with me. Our office number is 03-9800-5900. And so I hope that today the webinar is useful for you. We'll talk a little bit more about indoor air quality the next time relating to purification systems.
Jess asks, have you heard of the high-tech machines in the US? Thoughts on those?
High-tech, right? I don't know that particular brand. No. What does it do? So there are other units that are out there. There are some that use heat resistant HEPA and stuff. Not particular high tech. So no. Do you know what it does? In the States at the moment, I know that there is a few development that are coming through. We looked at like I said, we looked at a heated HEPA system, and the system was fantastic. However, the cost was impossible.
Yeah, she says, all good. I think there's a similar issue with ionization / ozone concerns.
Yeah. Most of them you find that they are. The units itself don't have. The only units that I have with ionization that I've used is the Air Oasis, not the old one or the Australian one. There are one that I used that used a bipolar ionization that I have it at home, and I have no problems with that. But the technology is so unsafe that you wouldn't find any scientists willing to talk a lot more about that. There are ways that people are using it, and there are tests that are done that are good, but the ozone factors in some of them, unless you can break down the studies of them in knowing what sort of, you can go into session 3 of this webinar. Session 3 will talk about the ratings and where to get informations on regards to questions like that, and if those ionizations that they're using is safe. But these type of filters are these type of machines. This one is a UK, like I said, we sell these ones. They're UK brand. They have research, and they're used in the NHS, which is the National Hospital system in UK. They don't have ionization. They use good old-fashioned carbon, HEPA, and ultraviolet lights, the correct wavelength, which is going to be safe. You've got a big screen here, which will tell you what it is, or smaller unit, and then we've got a MEDI system that is bigger. So these type of systems are much, much better. You don't need to have ionization in it. If you have ultraviolet lights, that is an air purifier. Anything that doesn't have any of that, just filtration system, they become an air scrubber. So just look out for that. So anything that you buy outside, just have to have a check to make sure that they reach and meet those things, and make sure that the filters, as thick as those ones, because you can find some that are like that. They're not true HEPAs.
Yes. For sure, it seems like people selling them have loads to say, and the scientists are all quiet. They're all about 5K and allergy inactive mycotoxins. Yeah. Last question from Jess. What's your recommended for best purifier for large open plain areas?
I'm a salesperson in a sales business. I'm going to, of course, say the MEDI 10 that we have. It's a bigger unit, and it does an open size place like my factory, which is about 300 square meters to 500 square meters. For open plane, there's not a lot of systems. This one is a air purifier with ionization systems inside it. This is a very robust unit. That one will do 2 of my factories. So basically is that there are very good systems. We sell the most of any, and you can understand why. We sell about 12 ranges of air purifiers to air scrubbers than any other company. A lot of companies concentrate on air purifiers, and there's some good ones out there. Innovair is a local manufacturer, and their products are pretty good. but ours are not bad. Hey? But those are the ones that I would say. Hey, going back to the question that you said is that I think I don't know if you heard about the COSI system. Basically, is the Columbia University during COVID, just when nobody can afford buying all these stuff, they're already losing out monies, and they just went out and had 4 of these filters. COSI Rhinesen, sorry, my coffee is not synced in yet, but 4 of these, and then had a fan in it and created their own purifying systems. So yes, you can have filters to be able to filtrate without having a more costly unit. These are simple design. I like them. I can move them around. When I need it, I can move it around my house and stuff. These are just more, I have to worry about them, flipping, and the contaminants spreading. However, during fires and smoke, they're very good to have it on windows. So any way that you can try and filter air, you have to look at your budget, because ultimately that's what's going to cost you. Because these systems, even though they might cost cheap, they will pick you up from the filters that you buy from them.
Jin asks, from a professional restorer's perspective, how important is it to control mold issues for indoor air quality compared to other parameters? Some air purifier systems claim to address mold issues, but there seems to be a lack of scientific backing for these claims. What is your view on this?
Oh, okay, so we talked about, it's very simple. In this MERV diagram actually tells you, you would find that there's a lot of people that talks about just air cleaning, air scrubbing in your home, air cleaning your home, or there's another word that people use, mechanical ventilation. These are that type, not that type of mechanical ventilation. But you can see is that they actually do remove some sort of mold. So we're looking at mainly Aspergillus penicilliums. They're 4 microns and above. If we're looking at more of the virus type of, a lot of the other different types of mold that might go under, but most of them sit around 4 to 10 microns. So if you have anywhere that's about a HEPA 12 to, again, true HEPA, if you have somebody that has a HEPA 12 and it looks like that, man, it's better not to. It's better to just go out and grab, these ones, which is cheaper, and they're MERV 8, than getting a stupid, pardon my language, no coffee yet though, a HEPA that doesn't really work. So filter works in its own entirety. When these ones, even the MERV 8 or 10, this is a MERV 10, I think this one, right? When it gets impacted and it gets loaded up, the filter actually works even better. Just doesn't have to go. The only time that you have to change this is when it gets too much for your fan and you choke your fan. And that's why it tells you change, because it's too much for me. It's too much stress that I'm having. That's why these machines that we have here, even the air scrubbers that we have here, are the true size to it. So it doesn't really matter. When it impacts, when it gets full, these machines don't crash. And that's why we have them. All the units that we have are of that. So to answer your question is that it will be impossible for you to get a MERV 16 rated unit. And I think IAQ, or I think Brett has a unit that actually does also MERV 16. Ours is MERV 15 and 14. So that type of unit, it's a little bit more expensive. I know his system is a little bit more expensive. If you want to just get in touch with me, I can direct you to, but they're more expensive. Will it remediate mold? Yes, because they're part of the particulates. Will they remediate viruses and bacteria that are an offshoot of mold? Maybe not. The best thing is to eliminate the cause. So that's it.
Yep.
Any more questions, just reach out. Thank you so much for your time. This is Ivi saying